What's going on, ChavezzSlovakia? Welcome back to school. I know you guys are excited to be back. I'm excited for you to be back. Good luck to you. Hope you get all the classes that you want. If you're going into college or you decided to work for a little while before going to college, I wish you well on that next leg of your journey. In Vegas, a lot of people don't even start until this weekend coming up. This upcoming week, I mean. So I know the work market is a little weird right now. You don't have to settle if you have somewhere to stay. There's a lot going on now about UFOs. I don't know if you guys have been privy to the fringe news, but ghosts are out now. Ghosts are not meta anymore. And right now what's meta are cryptids. They're coming back in. Cryptids and UFOs are back. So we're gonna check out a list of the dumbest ones that we can find. And I was unaware that that drink had real fruit chunks in it. And it's a freaking lot. Holy crap. An ice cold piece of mango just went right to my mouth. Here we go.
What was the Budget Museum? You see, these have been hard times for a museum that does not exist. And I might have done a few wrong things.
What do you mean?
Tax evasion, money laundering, fraud, and in return, my museum license has been taken away. But don't fret, because I have something just as good. Introducing the Budget Emporium. Step right in, step right in. You see creatures you've never seen before. That's because, although I can't talk about real animals, I can show the wonders of creatures that science has not yet accepted as reality.
Dude, I'm sorry for laughing like that, bro, but come on, man. I love it that it looks like it's actually put up somewhere real.
For anyone unaware, these creatures, called cryptids, are animals in the cryptozoology pseudoscience. Creatures without any scientific evidence to back their existence, but plenty of folklore and legend.
Like Bigfoot, or the Loch Ness Monster, or that big fuzzball living behind my dryer.
Think Bigfoot and Nessie.
Yeah, well,
But unfortunately, due to my budget, I was unable to afford any of these high-profile cryptids. So I've instead opted for the stupidest and most outlandish and hair-raising monsters you've ever seen. Are you ready for oodles of fun and fright? Then let's get started.
All right. The Fuji mermaids
are one of the more well-known mythological creatures.
Don't you even talk to me about manatees in my comment section. I don't want to hear anything about it.
Starting in ancient times, the idea of fish people has always amazed humans, and they've been searching for them ever since. Chris Columbus swore he saw a mermaid while sailing to the New World, but this was probably a manatee.
Don't talk about what they did to them, probably.
And on conspiracy channels and documentaries, you will find plenty of people.
That right there, that Mermaids, the Body Found documentary, is what let me realize, finally, that the History Channel is not real. They show stuff, not just real stuff.
Still searching for mermaids. Now, physical evidence for mermaids is a bit more hard to find, mainly because mermaids do not exist. Yet people have attempted to show their mermaid specimens, the most famous of which was P.T. Barnum's B.G. Mermaid. Behold, the mermaid, restored to its beauty.
Lit.
Just look at that face. Now, if you can't tell already, this thing is composed of the body of a fish with the torso of a primate tsunami.
Bro, it is actually horrific the more you look at it.
Back in the day, it was convincing enough for many Americans who came to Barnum's attraction in droves to view the specimen. Many were probably enticed by newspaper ads showing an illustration of the creature, only to see, once again, this. Of course, nowadays, no one is fooled by these creatures, and copies of Barnum's original can be seen around the world in various places as more of a charming novelty. I personally someday hope to find a Fiji mermaid as a way to round out the home. But the real mystery now is what actually happened to the original fake. It's presumed that Barnum's mermaid was lost in either of the two museums it was stored in, both of which burned down. But a few places around the world claim to have the original, from Coney Island to the Peabody Museum. Of course, all of these are probably just chasing the fame and glory of, might I remind you, a monkey stuck to a fish.
Yeah, right. I was actually trying to figure out what the heck it was. I'm glad he said monkey, because I was way off.
Now here's a few cryptids which are supposed to be taken as jokes. Fearsome critters is a catch-all term for animals made up by Americans
that's
at
pathetic.
the turn of the 20th century, which are supposed to be completely unbelievable and silly.
That's
These
ridiculous.
mythical animals were usually made up on the spot by lumberjacks in the Great Lakes region as campfire jokes, or maybe ways to haze new lumberjacks with outrageous stories they are meant to believe. Since then, a few have been made modern American folklore, such as the jackalope or the
Jackalopes a
hide
good one.
behind. But I feel
Guys, the jackalope. I have such a funny story about the jackalope, right? Because I saw it in picture books and all that growing up as a kid. And I heard stories about it like in what I now know are children's stories. But they talked to me about the jackalope like it was real out in the country, right? They talk about jackalopes all the time, or at least they did at the time. So I didn't realize the jackalope was fake until like the 5th grade, which is an incredibly long time to believe in a rabbit with antlers, right? Like that's a very long time. But like I saw an actual jackalope recreation in what I thought was a museum when I was really young, and it just stuck with me. So I just thought it was real.
which are not so well known. Just imagine, on a dark forest night, the grizzled men around you tell you the stories of terrors like the goofus, a species of bird said to fly backwards,
I've heard of that.
or the fur-bearing trout,
I've never heard of
who
that.
grows a hairy coat it uses to survive its cold environment. And of course, the legendary hoop snake.
That's good.
Name is self-explanatory.
Oh, is that what that comes from? There's actually an anime game that I downloaded, and I mean, of course, I've seen like images of snakes rolling around like that before, but there's an anime game I downloaded. One of the familiars you can summon does that. It's a little roly snake that grabs onto its own tail. That's kind of cool.
Among the world of cryptids, you have a few humanoids,
Yep.
a few animals.
Yep.
So what could be more terrifying than combining those things into a normal guy dressed up as an animal? No, it's not Batman, but it's the great Spring-Heeled Jack,
Spring-Heeled.
the leaping horror of London. Okay, so maybe this is
Oh.
stretching the rules of cryptids a
I've
bit.
seen that.
I mean, this guy sort of just looks like a guy. But I still include him due to his mysteriousness and unnatural abilities.
Oh, that's a really good Easter egg, man. If I could find the show that I heard of that from,
Starting
I'm
in
gonna
the
pull it up.
1830s, women across London told stories of a man
Yeah.
who would attack them. His description varies, but supposedly he wore a cloak with a tight-fitting shirt and boots, had long claws and red eyes like fireballs on a gruesome face. His signature powers seemed to be vomiting blue and white flames,
Okay, I didn't hear that
which
part.
he didn't do very well because there's no cases of him actually burning anybody. And of course, his incredible ability to jump pretty far in the air. I mean, yeah, I can't jump over tall fences, but I expected more from a supernatural being. Over the decades of the 19th century, Spring-Heeled Jack would spend his time lunging upon people, looking at them all creepy, and vomiting mildly frightening heaps of fire towards them. So, what was the origin behind this odd jumping character? Before the legend even spread, there were multiple cases of women being attacked by a weird man, so it must be a bit more than just complete myth, right? Well, some really do think it's just a case of mass hysteria, a condition where groups of people will suddenly just lose their minds for a while.
Yeah.
But there are also theories of
It
Spring-Heeled
happens.
Jack, in fact, being many Jacks. It's possible this was a group of young aristocratic men playing tricks on the public for a good laugh. Of course, I don't know how the power of the prank fueled these men to jump 9 feet in the air or spew fire, but those might just be exaggerated details.
Maybe. Maybe he was really out here hopping.
Okay, so this one struck me because I was looking through a book called Atlas Obscura, which, by the way, is a great book if you ever want to see the less well-known places you can travel to. Anyways, on one page they show many of the lake monsters of the United States. There are some pretty familiar shapes here. You have plenty of plesiosaurs, a few humanoids, some pretty spooky turtles, and then boom, octopus.
Yeah.
Yes, supposedly in the deep abyss of lakes in
heard
Oklahoma,
of that.
there lives
I know it's
monstrous
Oklahoma.
freshwater octopi, malicious monsters who drown unsuspecting swimmers. After all, if there was no giant evil octopus, why have drownings in Oklahoma risen in 2020, the most inconspicuous year in history?
I'm having a moment. I've seen the memes about core memories being unlocked. And, you know, I understand, like, oh, it's just nostalgia, blah, blah, blah. But I just now had my moment. So my teacher, the cool teacher, Miss Berger, when I was in elementary school, was the cool teacher versus the non-cool teacher, Miss Westfall. And Miss Westfall was mean to kids, but she knew she was the better teacher. They clashed, and it was literally like night and day. And I understand now why Miss Westfall did not like Miss Berger, because Miss Berger taught me that this octopus was real, and Miss Westfall avoided the topic completely. It was in Miss Berger's class where I got confused about whether or not, where I would see all these pictures of these animals and have no idea whether or not this was truth or not. And Miss Westfall's class, we studied boring animals. Miss Westfall taught me about Loch Ness and the chupacabra. Unironically, I asked people about it, and they said those are just coyotes. So I thought chupacabras were like coyotes, and not them just sparing my little brain to just tell me it wasn't real. And it's Miss Berger's fault. She kind of believed in that stuff. Her family members are probably tinfoil hats, and I never knew. I never knew maturing was knowing Miss Westfall was right the entire time. I don't know at what age where I realized that this octopus didn't exist, but I remember learning about it and going, that's interesting. Lakes can hold giant beings. And then at some point in my life I learned that that just wasn't true, but I never related the two because they were so far away from each other.
Now, an octopus doesn't seem too ridiculous. I mean, a snow hoop snake. You might even be asking, why can't octopi live in freshwater lakes? Well, like many saltwater animals, octopi are adapted solely for the high salinity of the ocean.
Right, but I didn't know that as a child. I just thought they could do the other thing.
An octopus's body is designed to pump out salt and conserve pure water. If they were in freshwater, they would essentially absorb too much water and die. So they would have to undergo a complete morphological change to live in such an environment.
It's crazy.
Also, come on, lake octopi, out of all the animals to be in a landlocked state, you have one which only lives in the ocean and doesn't even pose a threat to people? That's like having a big ape in the middle of the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah. Yeah, they do have that.
So here it is. As we near the alleyway of great horrors science cannot explain, I present you with one of the most terrifying. Behold, the pard.
The what?
The pard, as its frightening name
I
suggests,
appreciate that they
is a
drew his
mystical
balls.
and deadly feline whose appearance dates back to ancient culture. The pard's existence is also meant to explain the existence of an actual beast, the leopard. You see, somehow the ancient world just never saw two leopards reproduce, because they thought that the leopard was a sterile hybrid creature, like mules. You see, the leopard is obviously a degenerative, wretched animal, and the bastard offspring of a female lioness and a pard. Thus the name, leopard. Because obviously this deplorable creature is a complete downgrade from our mighty pard. Allegedly, when a male lion would see his lioness making love to the pard, they would freak out and become enraged. And you know what? I understand. If your girlfriend cheated on you with this guy, you would have some serious and concerning answers to ask yourself.
I was like waiting, I thought he was pulling my leg and then it was really about something else, but he's dead ass.
Eventually, as humanity reached the medieval era, the pard became more than just a cat.
What?
Soon, they were supernatural beings, evil and malicious killers. It was said that even the Antichrist himself takes the form of what else but the pard. Eventually, however, people would realize that leopards can reproduce, and legend of the pard fell into the sands of time.
Bro, people just be spreading misinformation.
This video was really interesting, because cryptids, even these hilarious ones, are still fascinating to study. On this channel, I usually cover real animals, who are the products of nature, but these are instead the product of the human mind, trying to answer questions to amaze itself.
And we're bad at it.
I mean, why are people drowning in my lake? Or where are all the mermaids of legend? The ways people imagine even the most outrageous creatures is fascinating. So although you should not believe in cryptids, certainly appreciate them as little pieces of folklore and man's imagination.
No problem. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. I know you guys have a fantastic imagination. You like your facts, you like your schooling, but you know what? It's important now that I realize for another reason, and that's so you're not fooled. You can't know what you don't know. And it's just that simple. It's not even to be complicated. You just can't know what you don't know. As a kid, I was not privy to how ridiculous these things were. And I don't know when I realized it never came out on a test, but I realize now as an adult that I was led astray by a teacher I really liked. And I don't have no issues with that at all, since it didn't stick with me or affect my life in any real way. But the more you know, the better you're off. So with a new respect for really stupid cryptids, I might actually do a little bit more studying on fake animals as well as real ones. We'll see you guys in the next one. Hope you guys have a good time, and I'll see you around.